Hey guys, welcome back to Mainville UTV and Outdoors. As you know, we've had these Segway units here for a little while, so now it's time to finally review them, so we're going to get into that. So I want to give a big thank you to Segway Powersports. We've been in talks for about a year now trying to get this done, but of course with the way the world works right now, shipping is very difficult, but we got it done. And that's also in thanks to Thunder City Power and Leisure in Estevan, Saskatchewan. So I want to say a big thank you to those guys and gals that helped us out to make this happen. Next up, before we get started, May 28th at that same dealership, Thunder City Power and Leisure, there's going to be a big event where you can try all these machines. This one specifically and the Snarler that I have will be there, including a bunch of other units that they have, and there should be a hybrid Villain there, the only one that even exists right now in Canada. So that's going to be a big deal. I hope I see you guys there. We're all going to be there. One of the big things that I want to address before all this starts is you need to keep something in the back of your mind while listening to one of these reviews. At this point in time, the 21s and 22s are brand new to Canada. Segway Powersports is still very new to the game, so I call a lot of these things growing pains, but ultimately what they've done is very impressive, so I'm very excited to get into this review because what they've done is pretty unreal. Last but not least, there is a written up version of this on mainvilleatv.ca, so I'm going to have a link to that down below. So if you're into the article version of this more than the video, there's going to be that for you too. We're going to get into the review now. Okay guys, so the first thing obviously is first impressions. So I have to say that honestly, when I saw these online without any experience with them at all, I kind of thought they were weird. I thought they were funny. I mean, they have a different look. They're very futuristic, and Segway, if you look at any of their other products, you can see that they love that technology and futuristic look in all of their products, so it's not surprising. What I can say is when I actually saw it for the first time, that flipped very quickly. So the overall look, as regular as it seems in this market, when you look at other utility side-by-sides, they have their kind of twist on it. So I'm not mad about it. I think it's kind of cool, and the more I think about it, the more I welcome that there's actually something different on the market other than the exact same look for decades on end. Some of the obvious details we're going to start going over is when you take a look at the body, you're going to see a lot of painted materials, pretty slick. You're going to see like these big LED light housings. They definitely set up a fascia that you're going to recognize on all of their products. So the Fugleman, the Snarler, and the Villain, all exactly the same as far as aesthetics go, and then they just apply them to what kind of machine they are, utility, the ATV, and the sport side by side. So definitely pretty cool to come out of the gate with all of those machines and then kind of have that appearance to them right away, so that's pretty awesome on their part. Next up in the first impressions is when you actually get a feel for the machine. So one of the things that I was worried about, and what I think Segway should also be worried about, is when you're entering a market, people are going to judge quite harshly left or right, ones and zeros. You really have to come out with a really big bang in first impression. So the looks could be divisive until you get in person. That's kind of up to the people. But one thing that I do know is very impressive is the fit and finish of things. So if you come around, you grab a steering wheel. It's quite stiff. A lot of the plastics fit incredibly well. I haven't found a gap or anything odd going on. A lot of their plastics that attach or come off or anything like that, they put foam blocks everywhere they could to stop rattling from happening, so that's pretty cool. I haven't found any body issues at all, really. The only two things that go against what I just said is the door. I have a bit of a problem with this door. The rattle is a bit much. The seam down here doesn't actually seal in any way, but it has the opportunity to. That's why they did this channel, so I think that could be done a little bit better. Another problem, I just opened the door, right, but with the inside handle. I kind of wish there was a handle right here on the outside. Minor inconvenience, but not that big of a deal. But as you can see, if you come around here, they missed an opportunity for a seal here to actually sit in the channel. So that's the only thing I find that really goes against the fit and finish of the machine. Otherwise, you're going to find everything to be rock solid, no rattling down the trail. We didn't experience anything like that. Everything is quite solid. even when you lift your tilt box up, everything's just got a really good tactile feel. It's strong, everything's good. When you bring this back down, she's stiff. Another small issue that I found, again, these are minor little growing pains I find for a new manufacturer. Everything's good here, that's fine. But when you go to close this, these little cables get in the way. Again, minor, true, but now, if I have a bunch of stuff that I'm holding in my hand, now I have to try and figure out how I'm gonna do this and get it closed. Is it minor? Yes, absolutely it is. Not a big deal. Something should be done about that, but otherwise, you're gonna see everything fits very well. Body's quite nice, really solid. I had no issues with that. I couldn't find anything else that I disliked as far as my first impression and body exterior. I expected there to actually be way more problems, but that's it. If you think about it, just that little door and that tailgate cable issue, that's very minor. Continuing with the exterior, you're gonna find a few other awkward things like this bumper. It'll definitely stop a hit. It is the furthest thing sticking out, so that's all good. But they put this step on here. I think it's a step. I don't understand. I'm already in the box at this point. So I think that this could be a little lower. It's not gonna actually ruin any angles for approach. So this, definitely weird. Although they do have, of course, a 2-inch receiver, they do stuff like this that also impresses me. So they've thought about tightening a bolt down so you don't actually get any rattle out of your receiver. So they put some thought into some things and then some into other that I find a little odd, but again, not that big of a deal, just something to keep in mind. I like to try and review this as every other Joe Blow would experience it. I'm letting you know about all the little things that I think might be something you want to know that a dealer's not going to tell you or something. But one of the other things that they do, of course, they have a trailer plug. But if you look at it, in North America, that plug style isn't used here. So a bit awkward, but you can change this if you need to, so not that big of a deal. If you need to switch that to a 7-pin. One of the other things is, this is the Deluxe UT10X, so it comes with beadlock rims. So those, we had them out on the trail and everything. I can't say we have high mileage or anything, but we did have a really good rip. It worked really, really well. Obviously we didn't have anything come off. I don't think we would have had an issue with a standard rim either, but it is nice that it comes with a beadlock. The tires, you're gonna find they're very similar to a Bighorn. These are called Wandas. They're a very good trail tire, there's nothing wrong with it. They're very light, and that also means they're very soft. A soft tire is easy to puncture, so that's something to keep in mind, and it will wear fairly quickly. That being said, for most people who are gonna have these, let's say a homesteader, hunter, that kind of thing, you're gonna do very well with a tire like this right off the bat. One of the other things while we're down here is the suspension. All you can adjust is preload. So there isn't a whole lot of adjustability there. I would have liked to see some piggybacks, external reservoirs. I know Segway has their own reservoirs available. They're on the Villain. So it'd be nice to see that on the Deluxe model of this unit too. The preload is enough. When you get it out of the crate, it's gonna ride very, very soft. It's something to keep in mind. That's basically the extent of the suspension. You're not gonna see a whole lot of travel. It is a utility machine and it's fully independent with no trailing arms. So you're gonna be limited to that kind of design. That being said, it is independent, so you're not gonna get caught on a rock or something on that long trailing arm that might be on a sport side-by-side. One of the things that also is included in all of that is you're not gonna have the most clearance in the world, but I mean, it's fairly standard as far as the clearance goes. We never really ran into any issues, as long as you expect this machine to do exactly what it does. So like I said, I pointed out the box. It is really strong. There's a handle on both sides. There's gas struts. Of course, that's actually going to tilt a fair bit of load. The carrying capacity and the towing capacity of this machine is fairly standard as far as that all goes. There's nothing out of the ordinary. I will include a spec sheet on our written review on Mainville ATV, so if you're looking for the dead-on specs, they're available there. They're also available on the Segway website. That being said, tie downs, everything's good there. You have a lot of access. If you come on in here, you're going to see Segway's own 2-cylinder 1000cc engine, so that's all their own as far as I'm told. So you're going to see pretty standard stuff. You're going to have a belt exhaust that blows on your header. You're going to have an intake. It's actually fairly high. This is, I mean, if you're that high, you're already waist deep in water. So everything there is good that way. So I just wanted to show that while we had everything up. And of course, maintenance, you're going to see an oil filter literally right here. Your dipstick, spark plugs, everything else. Very, very accessible. Very happy with that. Solid. Okay, we are going to move on to the interior, which is actually pretty nice. So I'm going to get my lovely camera lady to come on around here. Now, base model or deluxe, you're looking at like bolstered bench seat. It's actually super, super nice. It's got like a texture on it so you don't slide around. This design of a utility machine is literally made so that when I'm, let's say, hunting, and I've got all of my gear and a rifle and everything like that, I have lots of room to just get in. There's no issues. You can be a lot bigger of a man than I, and you will be perfectly fine getting into this. That's the idea. That's all good. You're going to see lots of storage. At every chance they had, they put storage everywhere. So that being one of the nicest ones. This whole thing is actually removable, so you can bring it into your house, pack it up, slap it in here, and head her off. Underneath, you're going to see cubbies all along the bottom. The only problem I have with those cubbies is that whatever you put in here, if you're going to drive spiritedly in any way, whatever's in there is coming out. So I was hoping that in future iterations we see some kind of mesh or maybe even full little doors. That would be ideal. Or some sort of design that's similar to the one on the back seat that I showed you, where you have like a cartridge you can kind of put in there so you can have a wrench box or whatever you need. Everything is very adjustable. You're going to see adjustments in every way except for scope, so towards you and back. A lot of traditional stuff going on in here, but also a lot of like very different Segway stuff going on in here. So you're going to see a 4x4 switch here. You're going to see this on Yamaha, CF Moto, whoever. It's all very much something you'll see all around the market. So you put it in 4-wheel drive, and there's your locker. Winch controls are down here. So you can have a remote. There's also a remote that comes with the vehicle you can plug in there and actually use it. Some strange things, of course, being Segway, they included a horn and a signal kit. This is in all of their machines. I think the Snarlers in 21 didn't, but now they do as of 2022, so they all have signals and horns. You have an e-brake here for all those old school truck guys. You're gonna recognize and probably feel, when I'm doing this, you could probably feel that. So very traditional old school e-brake. They have a fuel pump on and off, key, and a push to start button. One of my other gripes is the starting process feels like you're like getting ready to take off in a flight. So you sit down, you buckle up, you turn on the power, you turn on the pump, you take off the e-brake, you press the start button, you put it in and go. Like it's all a bit much. And for some of the steps, there's alarms, so it'll obviously warn you that your e-brake's on. I can appreciate that one. But when you're in reverse, this thing sounds like you're on a construction site. So I'm hoping in the future there's a way to disable that. I appreciate the safety in mind, Segway, but that one can probably go. Another one is if you just want to move this, let's say in the garage, and you don't have your belt on, it'll scream at you nonstop. So there's a lot of things like that. I think there's another one where if you're in gear and you get out of your seat, there's like another one, but there's alarms everywhere. Please give us the option to turn that off. Everything else is fairly standard. Huge glove box, absolutely massive over there. You're gonna have an LCD screen in front of you, which is actually really cool. It's gonna tell you basically everything like in a truck. You have your trip, your fuel, your temperatures, what gear you're in, your RPM. You're going to see your 4-wheel drive setup, any warning or hazard lights. It does give you voltage, which is really nice, and then your total kilometers. So there's a lot of great information here that you might not see on other machines. And I'm hoping in the future we can also see some way to customize that. That'd be really neat if you wanted to like get a different template or something. Just an idea. You can have that one for free. The other one is the big iPad, right? Obviously, that's something that you don't always see. You have music controls, so you can have your local radio and everything else. What I find funny about this is there's no speakers in this machine, so I'm not sure what's going on there unless there's accessories in the future I'm unaware about. They even have a call Bluetooth setup, so this connects to your phone. It also has Wi-Fi, strangely enough, so I actually had this connected to my house. There's also a complete map. This is very important for a lot of reasons. You're going to see this in your phone and here, so you can track where you rode. You have a feature called Segway Teams, where if you have another person with a Segway, you can track each other, which is really cool. There is all sorts of tilts and angles and crazy stuff going on there. They also actually have something called vehicle dynamics, and you're going to see power, speed, acceleration, and torque. So it actually gives you live feed on the fly as you're going. So if you were ever curious about some of that information, it's there. And even cooler is on your phone, when you connect to this thing, you're actually going to see a lot of that information charted out for you. So there's a lot of connectivity and available information through Segway, which is great because these machines have so many sensors and the ECU and all of it is storing information. Why don't we have access to it? So Segway is definitely leading the way on that one. As far as the interior goes, that's pretty well lit. Obviously you have a brake and some gas, you have hazards, you have a sport mode and an economy mode and a button. I honestly have no idea what it does. I haven't figured it out. But you have 3 cup holders on the bottom because technically this is a 3-seater. So if you and the wife and a toddler or whoever wanted to go for a ride, totally can. One of the funny details when we were on a ride is a lot of the porous plastic that has decals on it, for whatever reason, the stickers wouldn't stay on. So we just had to peel those off. You can literally see where the 4x4 was. So some of the stickers didn't stick, not a big deal, but something that I wanted to note. So when we had this unit, we had a lot of people testing it. We had 780 Alex, a friend of mine from Edmonton. He has a YouTube channel too. He had this thing out for a spin with me. We had Drake from the channel, of course, who during our test ride had plenty of time in this thing. We had neighbors and a few other people that we showed off the machine to. They all said the same thing. Literally all of them said 2 of the same things. The fit and finish is nice, it feels tight. So they all literally said that, which is really amazing. And the next thing was that it performed very well. So it was very surprising basically at the power and how it delivered that power. And I have to agree, this thing surprised the crap out of me. On the spec sheet, none of this is revolutionary or amazing or way over the top. At 105 horsepower, this thing is pretty standard as far as a 1000 goes in a utility machine. But when you actually try it out, it's fantastic. I had so much fun ripping this thing around that I just couldn't believe that it was a utility side by side. Like, I really wouldn't change a thing. The only adjustment I think I would make is in low gear, the clutch engagement is a little jerky, but it's pretty aggressive and a lot of fun. So I don't know if you can get away with basically getting rid of that, because the way it performs throughout the rest of the band is pretty amazing. I'm very happy, very surprised with the power delivery in this machine. I have to say that it's one of the more impressive things about it, and it's not what I expected at all to be talking about. So when you try one of these things out, definitely at the dealership, give it a little snap. I think you'll be pretty impressed. 4-wheel drive worked wonderfully. Everything engaged really well. Switching gears felt fantastic. I know a lot of machines, you have to kind of do the rock and wiggle in order to get these things going. The only disclaimer I guess I'd have to say is some of that can change as the machine is less and less new. Although a lot of those issues I find are definitely when the machine is new. So very surprising by Segway. Again, fit and finish, adjustment, performance. Very impressed by the Fugleman. Some of the last things that I wanted to tie up with this review is how I would make changes, and I want to provide solutions if Segway is watching. There's a few things that I would definitely change, and there's a few things that I would hope for Segway's machines. For the Fugleman itself, of course, the things that I touched on, very minor. I'd like to see some adjustment in the door. I feel like this one was a little last second. If you're going to have a channel, I'm hoping to see a seal, something like that. These are changes that I know Segway can make and I'm sure will make. with the way they had to enter the market, I'm sure some of the stuff was quite rushed. So we're going to see in the next couple of years how they handle that, and I think that'll tell me exactly what I think about how Segway is handling some of these things and customer feedback. The cable issue at the back, another strange minor one. I think they're going to fix that. Where it really matters, I think, is I'm hoping to see more diversity in their model types. So right now they obviously have a base model and they have this model for the Fugleman. For the Snarler, they have a base model, they have a 1-seat, 2-seat, and a more deluxe loaded model. And it's basically the same for the Villain. What I'd like to see is like a Hunter's Edition, maybe some sort of mud and race edition, like an outdoorsman edition, something with a full cab, maybe some tire options, more accessories. I know some of them are going to release this year. I haven't seen them yet, so I think there's going to be some changes. They're obviously prepared for that, so I fully expect a lot of these things to be addressed very quickly. They're a brand new company, so I know that for sure they're already working on this. They're just going to need a few years to get in line. That being said, on the flip side, they actually did show up with not 1, 2, but 3 machines, and they all compete fairly well in each of their respective categories. So to do that as a brand new company with all of your own stuff is very impressive. So are they going to have some growing pains and a few hiccups? Sure. But my experience has been absolutely phenomenal with Segway coming out the gate. So if you have any questions about these machines, just leave them down below and I'll make sure to address them. There's so much that I experience with these machines, but there's only so many that are really notable to kind of bring up. I really wanted to review this like a Joe Blow to a Joe Blow so that you could experience it the same way I did. I don't want to just rhyme off a sheet. I don't want to just do this for the sake of making $1 or anything like that. I want to do this so that you feel like you know a little bit more when you actually go to check them out. What I can say is everything that I've talked about today, I talked about with Segway, and they are very responsive. They wanted me to be truthful. They wanted me to be very honest in my review, which is fantastic. I cannot thank a company enough for having that kind of mentality. So that's basically where we're going to wrap this up. Again, this is a 22 Fugleman in the green and black, the UT10X 1000cc 2-cylinder machine. It has been wonderful, and at this point we're basically going to return it May 28th to Estevan, Thunder City Powersport and Power and Leisure. We're going to be at that event. I hope to see you guys there. You're going to be able to try it out and we can talk about it more then. But until then, we'll see you guys next time, and thank you.